Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. 3 things you will learn from this episode. Number 1, why everyone needs a side hustle. Number 2, how a short-term rental side hustle released my guest from her corporate golden handcuffs. And number 3, some tips on how to leverage social media marketing for your business. My guest, Madeleine Raiford-Holland, was a decorated C-suite executive curious about building a side hustle that could offer some additional financial freedom. And in that search, she discovered the short-term rental space in a very short time created a booming business for her, which she named Moderately High Maintenance. Over the last decade, she has built 3 successful companies and a community of over 2 million people. Today, she coaches investors that need help with their short-term rentals through a myriad of resources and programs that you definitely want to check out. Madeleine, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lyndsay. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Well, this is a total treat. I'm a big fan and I loved being on your show, but now you get to come to my side of the world. So
Woohoo.
I start every show the same, and I always ask my guests to share a little more of their story. So would you be so kind as to do that?
Well, thank you. As you alluded to in my bio there, I started out, you know what? I think I'm going to actually take this a little bit further back than where my career started. Back in college, I thought that I wanted to be a doctor. I thought it sounded cool and I liked the idea of being in charge. And I went to school with a pre-med biology major. Where I went to school, Virginia Tech, they wanted us to start on our major like right off the gate at 18. And so when I finally realized about a year and a half in that blood, guts, throw up made me throw up, I was already so far into my major that if I would have changed my major, I would have had to spend an extra year there, which was pretty frustrating. I said, you know what, screw it. You're not getting another dime of my money at Virginia Tech. I will finish out this biology degree, but really focus on business, entrepreneurship, and just start getting real world hands-on training with that. And so that's what I did. I left that and went to a government contracting company where I learned systems, processes, automations, ended up as the COO, and we doubled in size while I was there, which was so much fun. And that business had me traveling all over the country, over 100 nights a year, as I'm sure many of the listeners can relate to in corporate, just that grind, which is a ton of fun when you're young, you don't have family at home, you're not juggling the logistics. Oh, yes, I had great status, still working off some of those miles. And my husband was doing the same thing during that time. And a lot of times we would go see the same clients. And again, it was a great season of life for that season of life. And then we said, all right, we're going to have a little guy. And so we had our first son, Rhett, and just said, you know what, something's got to give. We're building somebody else a big business, making other people a ton of money. Let's start building something for ourselves. And so we decided to start our first short-term rental. And I knew I had a little bit of real estate experience, and all that taught me was the long-term rental side of things. Tenants and toilets were definitely not for me. But I said, we've stayed in a ton of Airbnbs. And if I'm doing the math right here, if the math is mathing, these people are making a ton of money. I bet we can do the same. A little tiny asterisk there. While I was doing all the traveling as a COO, I had started this creative outlet of a lifestyle website. And so I had done some brand partnerships with Delta Airlines and Target and Minoan, like larger name furniture companies. And so I decided to put my own unique spin on Airbnb and short-term rental and take all that I had been sharing on this lifestyle website and put it into a physical property and make that property shoppable. So that if a guest went and fell in love with the sheets, they could scan a QR code and buy it through an affiliate link and earn some extra revenue. So fast forward a little bit, that property was so wildly successful that we opened 5 more in the next 6 months. Now we have 16 under management. And I have taken all that I've learned from those different seasons of life and put them into my own coaching and mentorship program, because what I had found when I was getting started was people were offering all of this generalized information that was really hard to apply to my situation. So I wanted to help people not just create another side hustle, but actually create freedom and not just create another job for themselves, but a business that could run on autopilot.
Which is exactly what you did, right? So you started off with the one, it turned to six, and that became the full thing, right? Well, the
The full
start,
thing.
right? And
Yeah.
that obviously gave you immense financial freedom, which is super, super cool. Um, I have to imagine that when you were figuring out how lucrative this was, that had to feel like such an unbelievable moment of freedom to say, I'm unhooking from this grind and
Yes.
we're jumping in on this.
The first weekend that we launched, it was right in the middle of the University of Georgia's football season. And I mean, oddly enough, it's also a story of immense ignorance in the market. I put that thing on Airbnb. It rented for $750 a night for 2 nights for a football game. And I was like, hot dog. We are on to something. We have struck gold. This has
Yeah.
legs. I did not have any dynamic pricing, which is something that I am huge on teaching my clients how to do now. And I look back and I realized that same weekend should have rented for $2,200 a night
Oops.
with a 2 night minimum.
Oops.
But in my ignorance, I was thrilled
Right?
with $750 a
So
night.
let's just explain what dynamic pricing means for any of the
Yes,
STR. STR stands for short-term rental, for any of the STR newbies or people who are just thinking about it, because I understand what you're saying because I've certainly paid these prices. But for anybody that doesn't know, please explain what that means.
absolutely. So dynamic pricing is quite simply on the principle of supply and demand. So it takes all of the other short-term rentals, all of the hotel rooms in the area, takes into account the occupancy rate for that specific time period, the demand, and it uses AI and other algorithms to adjust the prices accordingly.
Mm.
So all of this is set up and running in the background, one of those amazing automation things that you should be doing to run that business well. But as a newbie, I didn't have that figured out. And that was fine. I was thrilled with $750 a night, but I just look back and I'm like, people don't make the same expensive mistake that I did in my ignorance.
Well, and I love that you do this. I mean, first of all, for anybody doing any homework on Madeline, she's got a massive following on Insta, and you already had pretty established yourself as a recognizable name. You had some really smart branding partnerships, which you and I need to talk about over a cocktail, because I need to get some of that. But we really, I mean, folks were already looking to you as a smart voice. And I think for anybody doing this for the first time, there's probably some tips and tricks they ought to be thinking about, aside from dynamic pricing, that will make their short-term rental a little bit more marketable. Any tips you want to share, like quick and easy ones?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Start with the the larger brand in mind. So people ask me, should I name my property and create my website just on the singular property? I always want people to think with a larger brand in mind. So I have MHM Luxury Properties, which is the website that I send people to, and within that brand, I have a brand standard. So just like when you go stay at a Westin and they have a heavenly bed and you
Yep.
know what you are going to get when you stay at a Westin hotel. If you come to MHM Luxury Properties, you know you're going to get the same organic cotton linens, the same purple mattress, the same fellow kettle. Like there are certain things that are part of our brand standard. And I have people call me and say, hey, have you opened a property in this location yet? I only want to stay at one of your properties, which is the greatest compliment that
Huge.
somebody could give me. And so, what I encourage new hosts is go ahead and start thinking about what you're wanting to create, the curated experience, the elevated guest experience, and then keep a list of all of the links that you are using of the products you're putting in the property
Yeah,
because then you can make it shoppable with affiliate.
I love that. So for those following along, Madeline will show a property and literally like you can look at the bedding, you can look at the lamps, you can look at whatever, and there are links to all of those things. Her properties are beautiful and she knows it. And so she says, let me influence you and you can have the same kind of look. Now, as a renter and somebody who really enjoys staying in a beautiful place, when you walk in and there's like a tone and a feeling that's cohesive and on brand and it looks just like the pictures, that's really nice. And then to extend that feeling by allowing people to be like, oh, that mattress was so great. Where can I get it? It's just
You
really
don't even have to
smart.
pick up the sheets to try and hunt it down.
No, it's there. It's
We
so
try and make it
smart.
easy for people. And I think that is something that you can take, whether it's in the short term space or somewhere else.
Yeah,
People have already said yes to you. If they love what you're doing, give them another opportunity to say yes again.
I love that.
Think of the lifetime value of the customer. You're already adding so much value to them. If they want to come back for more, like think of how you can continue to add value for
Mm,
them.
I love that. I think the other thing too, we talk about personal branding a lot on this show, and um, you do this really, really well. And
Thank
creating
you.
those brand standards for yourself, whether it's your colors or your font, or these are things you can expect from working with me, you do that really, really well. So, any advice for people that maybe they don't have a short-term rental business, but maybe it's just their regular business? What things have you learned in building your brand that are like non-negotiables?
First, thank you for that. I've worked really hard to try and build out that personal brand. One of the tips I would say is invest in a professional brand kit from the beginning. That is one of the things I always want to show up with my best foot forward, and so do you. And so, you can even go to Etsy. That's a great place if you're strapped for cash and just trying to bootstrap a lot of this. Go to Etsy. There are a lot of branding professionals who will do it for $100,
Mhm.
but you at least have a roadmap for what your brand should look like, the right fonts, the right colors, even a mark that is not just something that's done on Canva. Um, I think that's something that you should be thinking about from the onset of your business, not something that you get to later.
Yeah, I think that if you are thinking bigger, like you
Mm-hmm.
recommend, and you're thinking about what is the feeling I want people to have that when they're working with me, and I want it to reflect well on them that they've chosen this, you're going to
Yes.
have a really good compass on the kind of look and feel you want to create. Now, businesses evolve and they shift and they
Totally.
change, but if you have that strong umbrella and that tone, it's going to take you farther. And I remember just when I was creating Heartbeat for Hire, I my favorite color is blue, but Heartbeat for Hire, like heartbeats and blue, like that seems like cadaver and corpse. Like I don't want to think that way. So I was like, it seems like I ought to go more pink, but I didn't want to be too girly. So, I had to put a lot of thought into this. And, ultimately I settled on this dusty pink with some gray and some white, so it doesn't feel too girly. But now,
And I think thinking about your ideal client as
yeah,
well when you're creating your branding, it's not just what you like.
that's right.
Who are you talking to? Having that client avatar of,
Yeah,
I even name them, branding 101. I'm talking to,
yeah,
Brittany and Dan. They're a couple who live in the Midwest and they have two kids. And
yes,
this is, really, where are they shopping? What brands are they interacting with outside
yep.
of mine? Like, how much money do they make? What are their jobs? Like, getting into the nitty gritty of who you are talking to, because when that person who you are ultimately trying to sell to, when they feel like they are being spoken directly to them,
Hmm.
that's when they're like, this person knows me. They
Yeah.
understand. They have to have a solution because they understand me so well.
I love that. I mean, what you're talking about is your ICP, like who's your ideal client. And
Yep.
you can define that. I did that when I wrote my book. So we actually created a person, added a picture, and I tried to
Love
remind
that.
myself as I was writing the book, this is who I'm talking to. And you want someone to open that book or click on that brand and be like, oh my God, it's like she's in my head. And that is That's some really smart stuff, which leads us into the social media marketing side of this interview. So you do Instagram really well. It also helps that you're doing something that's very visual. So what advice do you give for people who are trying to build their social media brand, that maybe might not have as visual of an offering?
So, consistency is key with social media, regardless of what platform that you're looking at. Instagram specifically, I always tell people reels are when you want to reach a new, wider audience, you post reels. Carousels are to nurture your existing. And when I say a carousel, I mean a photo that you have to swipe and continue reading.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, you don't have to recreate the reel every time you are creating a post. Post a topic on a reel that's going to hopefully reach a wider audience, and then repurpose that same content in a different format on a carousel. Learn how to batch create content.
Mm.
We are big on creating a month or a year's worth of content in a single day or afternoon. We talk about and teach people how to do that with AI on our retreat that we do in Costa Rica. And then leverage AI. I
Yeah.
mean, I know it's kind of scary for some folks,
No, it's
especially in the corporate world, but you
No, no, no,
like
no. It's a topic
you
we
have
talk
to.
about a lot, and we talk about the right way to use AI and the wrong way to use AI. AI is your friend, and if you are sleeping on AI, you are asleep. I mean, you really can take an existing piece of content and say, "Can you help me iterate on this 5 more times so I can create a social calendar, with this thread?" And
My
it's
my
great.
team has taken hours of my video trainings, had them transcribed,
Yeah.
fed them into this bot, and now this thing spits out content for me. I'm like, oh, what have I said about this in the past?
Yeah.
And it cranks it out and it fools me. I'm like, wow, that said it better than I did. But in my brain, that's how I would have said it if I was my best self.
That's
It
so
is
smart.
wild how you can start to leverage that, especially with social media. But the key point is to be consistent with it
Okay. What else?
and batch create that content, have that branding so you're showing up in a consistent way. I want, even if it's not one of my properties that's being shown, I want somebody to be able to instantly recognize one of my pieces of content because the colors, the
Yeah.
fonts, and the way that it's being presented, and be real with people. I saw something the other day about how so many of these curated millennial brands are dying. The ones that had this perfectly polished feed with this, that, and the third. Gen Z like kicked that out the window. They want
Yeah.
authentic, they want real. And so that's encouraging folks. You don't have to be perfect to
Right.
post it.
I
Just
think
get it
people
up
love
there.
they love the blooper reels. They love when
Totally.
something goes wrong, your kid runs across the camera or your dog is walking in front. Like there's those moments that are funny, and also those moments are like, so I was creating this content today and this is what happened. People really appreciate the human side, and I talk about this a lot with LinkedIn. That's why I encourage my clients to always add something personal to their profile. And, on mine, it says wiener dog lover and mom of twins. And the amount of people that connect with me on those two things is staggering. But it's because I'm giving them a softball, I'm giving them a way to connect. So whenever you can invite people in and show that you're human, it's going
Yes.
to bode well for you.
Especially in the short term rental space, but even in the start of any business, show your journey
Mhm.
because typically, especially in the coaching space, you are talking to somebody who's 5 or 10 steps behind you. They want to see where you started, all that it took to get there, and that it's actually possible because that's inspiring to people.
And I think storytelling is also really important. And that's, of course, why I wanted to have you on, just to give people some inspo, but also to just, for you even to share, like, I had a client, they were a little reluctant, they jumped in, they followed my methodology, they're cranking, and they've got a slew of properties today. Like, those stories show people the path forward, and it makes you really credible. And that's smart.
Absolutely. Well, if we're going to tell stories, can I share one?
Yes,
I
please.
just So we're in the thick of tax season. So for folks who are, this is going to air later.
A couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. A couple weeks from now, we're recording on April 1st. So we are in the thick of tax season. And so my clients are really in the weeds with, getting cost segregation studies, which for those of you who don't know, is an incredible tax vehicle that you can utilize to bonus depreciate a piece of real estate. And there's something called the short-term rental tax loophole that people who operate short-term rental businesses get access to. And so we just had a client, his name's Kyle. He purchased a property in Tampa. That thing is cash flowing incredibly. He went in with $70,000 of equity because we negotiated this deal well, but he just saved over $100,000 on his taxes through a cost segregation study. And so this is a very exciting time in our program because everybody is starting to get those amazing tax. Some people are getting refunds and returns that have never gotten it before because they're such high income earning 9-to-5ers.
Right.
They're like, I'm always paying. This year, I'm actually getting a refund back. And just one of the things that you're building wealth. We're hoping our clients are winning on cash flow, appreciation, equity in the property, as well as taxes. And so it's just really fun to see.
So guys, she knows her stuff. That's very cool intel. So tell us a little bit about your podcast. I know this is a new adventure for you. I was a guest. You're doing a great job, but tell people what it's about and why they should tune in.
Thank you. It's the Lux and the short of it. It's stories about short-term rentals, people who have embraced change and made it an opportunity, people's stories of just challenges in their life and creating those luxurious moments as far as wanting to, not necessarily the material version of luxury, but that time that you get to spend with your family and creating the life that you actually want to live on your terms.
Yeah.
And so it was wonderful to have Lyndsay on, and people are loving that episode, by the way. I'm getting feedback constantly. They're talking about your power skills. So
yes.
The one that I hear all the time, I think you were episode 3, right?
I think so. Yeah, it was really
episode 3. So guys, you can check out Lyndsay's episode on episode 3. It's wonderful.
And we'll include the link to the show as well. So what inspires you?
Oh, not to sound cliche, but my kiddos every day. I have a 4 and a 2-year-old, both little boys, and they are just wild and raw and just open all the time. And I came from a family of girls. And so boy land is a little bit wild. And I tend to be a bit more reserved, if you know me in person, an introvert. And they inspire me to get out there and go after it and be unashamed and unapologetic about who I am and what I'm doing, and sharing with people that there's another way and that you don't have to settle. You can create the life that you want to live.
Yes, yes. We love designing our lives here. And what would you like your legacy to be?
That's a great question. I hope we edit out that pause, but
Oh, it's okay.
I think about the ripple effect quite a bit, which is the same thing as legacy. And I look into not just my kids who are going to feel the effect of the businesses that we've built. And at this point, they don't have to work a day in their life. And I want them to be able to, one, know the value of that, but also give back in big ways, because that's been such a powerful vehicle for us. Is like, we've built all this, but we're also able to give big. And looking at my coaching community, so many of our clients are achieving that for themselves. Yeah. And just thinking about the generations that will be affected from the work that we've done and what we've poured into people is just, it gives me goosebumps to think about it.
I love that. That's beautiful. So what's next for you?
Well, I think I'm going to follow in your footsteps. We're going to have a book in the works.
Yes.
We have our retreat. We do a retreat in Costa Rica coming up in June. And I'm hoping to do more speaking engagements. So that's what's coming. Spread the word.
And where can people find you?
People can find me at Madeleine Raiford-Holland. My name has a little bit of funky spelling, so it's Madeline, Raiford, Raiford, Holland, like the country. Instagram, LinkedIn, and my website is that.
Perfect. And we will share all of that and we'll share the link to the podcast as well. Madeleine, this was a pleasure. I loved having you on. I love sharing your story. And guys, if you liked what you heard, please go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a 5-star review at Spotify or Apple. My fellow podcaster will agree. When you get these reviews, it changes everything. It really increases your rating. It matters so much. And this episode was sponsored by the Outlier Project, a community that is near and dear to my heart. They always lead with heart, so super proud of that. My friend, it's an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Get out there, go lead with heart, everyone. Have a great day. Are you ready to elevate your leadership style and create an exceptional workplace that stands out from the crowd? I'm here to introduce you to a game-changing resource that will transform the way you lead and shape your company culture. It's time to embrace the power of top-down culture. This practical guide empowers your leadership for lasting success, helping you create a workplace where everyone thrives. Get top-down culture today, and let's reshape the future of leadership together. Thanks for listening to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or consider leaving a 5-star review and a great rating at Spotify or Apple. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great day.